Good morning, everyone. Good morning. It is a lovely gray and cloudy day here in the city of Philadelphia. I'm your host, James Jackson. I'm the executive producer of Late Thief Productions. And we're coming to you live as we do every Wednesday with information and news you can hopefully use for your viewing pleasure. Today we're going to cover a few topics. Want to give you a little bit of a brief touch back on the PPP, EIDL, SVOG, and PUA. Just talk about all of those programs for a moment. And then we're going to jump right into some of the news from the past couple of weeks with regard to gun violence, terrorism, Asian hate, what have you. Just a few quick updates on the PPP and EIDL. Some of the things that we had talked about on the channel last week. The EIDL, the application deadline for the PPP has been extended by 60 days. So if you did not previously apply for the PPP, you still have until the end of March to do so. We highly encourage you to do so if you are any sort of sole proprietor, business person, somebody who makes their own living through directly servicing clients, be it businesses or individuals. So if you go ahead and do that, you can get up to 8 weeks of your payroll. Payroll in this case for sole proprietors and freelancers is defined as 8 weeks of what you would on average get over the course of the year. And in this particular case, the year 2019. So we're going all the way back to documents that you had 2 years ago, but if you need the PPP, you might not have so many documents from last year, so it might not be too terrible. At any rate, apply for that, apply right away, no matter what category of business you're in. There are some specific business category grants and monetary help that have come out in the intervening week since we talked about this. There is a here in the Philadelphia area, there's a restaurant specific grant. It's for all of Pennsylvania. It's called the CHIRP program. And it is designed to help restaurants and the hospitality industry in general. So if you're a restaurateur, if you're a place that provides lodging, etc., you may qualify for this grant. There are a lot of ipsos and provisos, so review that program before you get too excited about it, but it is very specifically targeted for the hospitality and restaurant industry. That being said, if you are a freelancer or a restaurateur in the hospitality industry, if you're a chef who doesn't work as an employee of your restaurant, but rather you own and operate the restaurant, definitely look into this program. It's designed to cover some of the same losses that the PPP and the EIDL and all the other programs that are out there are designed to cover. These are important programs. They'll continue to be important as we try and recover from what is a necessary economic downturn. because of the pandemic. And hopefully it'll help you maintain your business and keep your business alive. That would be the goal here. And keep your business open, and keep you on the up and up, keep you going for the next few months while vaccinations get more popular, we get closer to an immunity level in the population that people can gather again in person safely, without endangering each other. Speaking of, why is anti-masking so prevalent, particularly in the white community? There don't seem to be too many anti-maskers of color. I've run into one or two of them in, via social media, but even nurses, this is problematic to me. I mean, you're a nurse, you're in the medical field, and then you're talking about long debunked things like, oh, wearing my mask causes me to breathe in my own CO2. No, it doesn't. Okay, I'm gonna, so I hate, one of the problems of doing any sort of broadcasting or reporting is that when you say things, you don't often get the chance to immediately refute them, but I'm going to immediately refute this. Wearing a mask doesn't cause any harm to yourself, and does not cause any harm in your life. Just wear your damn mask. Even if you are vaccinated, it's helpful to wear a mask, continue to wear a mask, because you can still get the virus in your system. It can still replicate. Your body just fights it off faster, but that doesn't mean that you aren't in the phase of the virus where it's communicable. And it also doesn't, there are times when variants come out that aren't recognized by the same antibodies that are generated by the vaccine. So just wear a mask in public. It's not so much to ask. If you have the chance that you're going to be around somebody, or within their same space, and the air has not had time to change over between when you enter that space and they enter that space, or vice versa, it's you're breathing in somebody else's CO2. So along with that CO2, you're breathing in somebody else's germs, and all the viruses and bacteria that they might be exhaling. And so why subject yourself to that? Just wear a stupid mask. It's not that hard, and cuts down on those transmissions of viruses and stuff really, really quickly. At any rate, moving on with SVOG, you can apply for the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant, even if you have applied for the Payroll Protection Program, the PPP. That is a change over the last several months. Until last week, the SBA was saying that it was a hard do not apply for both of these programs. You cannot and should not apply for both of these programs. They are designed to cover some of the same costs, but what the workaround has become is that the SVOG will now be discounted by the amount of Payroll Protection Program loan that you get. So whereas the SVOG covers up to 6 months of average payroll, the Payroll Protection Program only covers 8 weeks, so 2 months. So that other 4 months of coverage of your payroll, now you have a way to get it. You can apply for the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant Program. That's if you're in the arts, in in either producing or presenting live theater, movies, music, a lot of other live performance types. So you'll want to definitely take a look at that program if your business, like many of ours, has been closed for the past year plus, because you can't gather people in large numbers of people in small spaces. That's back in March of last year, that's what I was saying. Like, my whole business is predicated on gathering large numbers of people in small spaces. There's literally no way to do that right now. So, yeah, we were shut down for the last year. Things are starting to open back up, but you've been closed for a year. That was a year's worth of salaries and payroll that you didn't have. The government recognizes this and is trying to help you out. So apply for that program and get money to stand in for the money that you did not make that you should have made during the past year. I wanted to touch briefly also on the pandemic unemployment assistance, PUA, unemployment assistance in general. We are at the year end, and I know a lot of my viewers are in the Philadelphia area. So this applies specifically to Pennsylvania unemployment, but most states are handling this in a very similar manner. So review with your state Department of Labor or unemployment office how they're handling this. So traditionally in unemployment terms, they've never expected you to be unemployed for more than a year. They've never expected to pay benefits for more than a year. So a year benefit year end date is usually 365 days from when you established your claim. That ends the time when you would normally be able to go back and collect unemployment if you hadn't claimed it for whatever reason. Since we've had a pandemic for more than 12 months now, we're now working with unusual rules. The new Pandemic Recovery Act, signed into law 2 weeks ago Wednesday, it provides for extensions of unemployment benefits all the way through September. So the federal government is expecting that it may take all the way through September to get enough vaccinated people out there that normal operation, in-person operation of businesses like restaurants can resume. This is it was a pretty comprehensive bill. A lot of this 1.9 trillion number comes from that aspect of the bill. It may not end up costing the government that much because people may start to go back to work sooner than that. I mean, I know as soon as I am eligible for vaccination, I may be able to return to some semblance of what I was doing last year, because I already have clients contacting me and saying, hey, can we do this, this event or that event? There are and will continue to be ways to do events safely, be that moving them to a digital platform or lowering the expected number of audience members to a safe level, making sure that your presenters and anybody else giving oration, such as an actor or a singer, is separated from any other person, including bandmates or co-presenters, in an air space that they don't share with their the other people in the room. So be that I've seen some great, very large shields to protect entire bands in performance venues. I've seen, performers perform with a mask on, to keep their exhale from going very far. There are we do have the technology to get around some of these problems. So long as we continue to get around these problems, we continue to do presentations. There's stuff going on out there, and I urge you to partake of whatever you can partake of as an audience member, be that a live stream like this, or there are lots of theater pieces coming out. We do have Philadelphia Theater Week coming up, and all of that is going to be digital. Philadelphia Theater Week will be April 22nd through May 2nd. And so, keep an eye out for that. Keep an eye out for announcements of what sort of theater pieces are available for you to watch virtually. Enjoy yourselves. If you're at home, come out virtually and join the other audience members in taking in a new piece of work. Let's move on to the general topic, the racism problem, gun violence and white terrorism. So I know my titling can be a bit provocative sometimes. I'm not trying to be clickbait here. There is a racism problem. There is a gun violence and white terrorism problem. What do I mean with this? And this is all tied in with immigration and defunding the police, which are two topics I didn't get to last week, and I meant to, and I'm more than happy to talk about today. So, gun violence and white terrorism are inextricably intertwined, because the rules and societal norms that we create to enable white terrorism make gun violence possible, and encourage gun violence in all communities. What do I mean by that? So if you look on a global scale at the colonial architecture of European colonialism, American colonialism, U.S. colonialism, I shouldn't say American, it is very U.S. thing. Mexico isn't very, it was a colony, it isn't colonial in the same way that the U.S. is. By the way, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Guam is a colony of the United States. If you didn't catch that, Marjorie Taylor Greene accused the Guam National Guard of ambushing her in her office by delivering her cookies when the congressional representative from Guam, all of our territories get congressional representatives. They don't have votes, but they do have lobbying power. Brought the Guam National Guard to deliver cookies to Ms. Taylor Greene in her office, whereby she immediately evacuated her office and tried to hide elsewhere in the Capitol building. This all stemmed from Ms. Marjorie Taylor Greene's assertion that we shouldn't be sending money to places for international aid, such as Guam. when we send money to Guam, it isn't considered international aid. It is a U.S. territory, and so it is considered spending on our national needs, such as defense. A lot of the money that goes to Guam is for defense because we have a huge military base on Guam. Anyway, sorry. So a crazy sidetrack, but it just exemplifies the problem here. There aren't many situations in which the U.S. Is territorial, is colonial like this, but Guam is a good example. So in Guam, we replaced the existing government of the people of Guam with our own representative democracy, but then don't allow representation. The people of Guam are unrepresented in the federal government, which their taxes are going towards, and in which they participate as soldiers, as citizens, as people who are part of the makeup of the society of the United States. When you have these colonial powers, these colonial areas, where you take the citizenry and you dictate what they can and cannot do, but you don't provide them the ability to represent themselves, or have a say in the laws passed that they operate under, that over the course of generations leads to a local social power vacuum. You can look at Africa, you can look at parts of Asia, you can look at parts of Europe even, where the colonialism of, say, Russia or China or the US or France or the Netherlands, etc., etc., etc. We can go on. The colonialism of these once and former and currently great powers, economically, have affected the way in which people govern themselves, because these governments will try and export their social ideas and import the money and resources of those territories. Colonialism is always a resource extraction. There is no other point to colonialism. So you're extracting resources from the country that you colonize, and ostensibly the argument over the course of history, and believe me, I am providing this argument with a lot of air quotes, the argument has always been, well, we're providing them a better form of government, a better social system, basically becoming the administrators of the territory that you're extracting money and wealth and power from. That's never true. We can lay that to rest right now. Again, you know, I'm going to take joy in being able to immediately get rid of that idea. That is never true. That is never the case. You are never providing a better living situation for people you are colonizing. So you know, that you could take that idea right out of your head if you live in a colonial country, colonial in this case being from the colonizer standpoint. People will rule themselves. It is people can be responsible for themselves. There is no group of people on the planet that cannot be responsible for themselves, that will not develop some sort of governing body, that will not develop a way to work together. So, you know, even even if you look at nations that have been exclusionary to outsiders, like there's a small island nation in the Indian Ocean that was famously approached by a missionary who then caught a bunch of arrows in the chest. And, you know, for what it's worth, good on them. I'm sorry, but, you know, they didn't want to deal with that, and so they didn't. But they rule themselves. They didn't want to deal with the missionaries because they want to continue to rule themselves. Their elders, however their government is organized, they have foreseen the problem of being impacted by a colonizer, and so they just don't deal with it. They just reject all exterior influence. So at any rate, where does this lead into gun violence? How does this lead into gun violence? So what consistently happens in colonial environments is that the dominant culture, the culture that is extracting resources and allegedly providing better social structure, tends to discount the social structure that exists amongst the people that they are colonizing. And here in the United States, not only do we have the Native American population, which lives under colonized rule, but we also have the Black population, which is a colonized population that has been moved, that has been picked up and moved elsewhere. You know, our population has completely had its social structure replaced. We have no links to our ancestors' ways of governing themselves. We lost the ability to represent ourselves for many years, for 300 years at the very least, and there are arguments to be made that we still don't represent ourselves very much in a representative democracy sense, in that there isn't enough ability for ability in this case, meaning the opportunity. Sorry, I should use the word opportunity there. The opportunity for people of color to participate in a participatory democracy and affect the culture. People of color affect the culture of the United States all the time, but not in the way that it is self-rule. It is in the way that our culture is cherry-picked and co-opted and brought into the mainstream under the mainstream's terms. So to continue with the bringing in, how does this lead to gun violence in the Black community? You know, you could be saying, you know, there's always the idiotic argument of Black on Black crime. Crime is local. Crime is societal. Crime is always going to be more prevalent. Any type of crime is always going to be more prevalent in the type of people that that represent that are representative of who people deal with on a daily basis. Any crime that you look at, whether it be theft, whether it be whether it be quote unquote white collar crime of like somebody being just people extracting resources. These crimes are more prevalently closely related. The people who commit the crimes are closely related to the people who are the victim of the crime. And that holds true across all kinds of crime, whether it be violent crime, whether it be non-violent crime. It just holds true because crime only happens as an interaction. Where the gun violence comes from is this replacement of this power vacuum, this colonialized power vacuum. So you've taken a population and you've brought them under your system of government, but you've given them no ability to govern themselves. Just as in crime, your people are going to look to people that they usually deal with to resolve their own problems. So when you have a crime, to resolve your problem, you're going to go to the people that you trust the most to try and help you with that problem. So say your neighbor steals your lawnmower, you're going to probably, in most cases, try and talk to that neighbor first. You're gonna go, hey, neighbor, you borrowed my lawnmower. You didn't give it back. I need it. And you're gonna try and negotiate directly. You might ramp it up from there. Say they just not responsive. You might go to your neighborhood association or your block captain and say, hey, we're neighbors, we're usually good neighbors, we're having a little problem here. Could you resolve this? This is the way that problems are resolved the world over. It is human nature to try to resolve problems on an escalation scale. To start with a problem being resolved by conversation, and to continue to seek higher and higher authority who might have power over the both of you to resolve that problem. Where gun violence comes into play is you've removed the people from the political system, the judicial system, the criminal system. The people are not represented in your crime resolution, conflict resolution techniques. Therefore, they don't seek out those techniques. A lot has been made of gun violence here in the city of Philadelphia. The city of Philadelphia, in fact, quite late realized that several of the shootings that happened over the past summer were interrelated by social media. People were having beef with each other and resolving that beef by shooting each other. No, that's not the right way to do it. It's not an intelligent way to do it. that is a vast over escalation. You have a problem with somebody encroaching on your turf, taking over something that you feel is yours. Yeah, you might want to resolve that, but killing them dead is a wild over escalation. Of course it is, and it seems like that. I would highly doubt that, aside from a few sociopathic individuals who view life as a zero-sum game, that aside from those few sociopathic individuals, I doubt that you could find in the grand population, any population, a group of people who would say, yeah, let's just jump to killing the person who caused me agony. You have these percentages of people who have different ways of approaching their problems, but you will always, in any population, have those differences. The problem is that the people who jump to, I want something bad to happen to this person because they've caused something bad to happen to me, have no recourse in colonial populations. So I'm in a population that I don't have a police force that I can trust. I don't have a judicial system that I can trust to be even-handed, or to take care of my problems, or even to consider my problems important. I personally have a problem here in the city of Philadelphia, and do not have a police system that I can trust. That causes me to search outside of that system for resolution. That causes me to, in my particular case, that causes me to organize with people and become an activist and try and resolve those problems completely outside the system. That causes me to actually want to change the system. But I'm a political junkie. I believe that politics has a way of resolving these things, that this is possible, that it's possible to create a system that can resolve things. It creates strange bedfellows too. Sometimes I'm allied with anarchists, who don't believe that there is a system that can possibly change things. That people should just be individually self-governing. At the end of the day, my argument isn't with the anarchists. They may be right. We may have to break down the system to the point at which every individual is self-governing before we can approach a system where the government of the grander society works for the individual. But I believe that in all of history, an anarchist model has never survived very long, because the majority of people automatically organize into a social structure. So most people automatically start to try to resolve each other's problems, automatically try and start to help other individuals with their knowledge and with their skills. Coming back to gun violence again, So where does this leave us? How does white terrorism and racism create gun violence in the Black community? Because there is no part of the society that this element of the Black community that is using guns to resolve their problems can trust in. There's there over the course of since the 80s, since Reagan, there has been a drive to incarcerate more and more people of color. That's just statistically factual. Whether the people creating these laws meant for many more people of color to be incarcerated than non-people of color is irrelevant. If you're some idiot who believes that people of color are just socially predisposed to more crime than other people, you're wrong. You're just wrong. Like, look at the statistics. The statistics show that, you know, people in all populations, no matter how you break down and section off a population, the percentages of people doing something or another thing are the same. There are, you know, so many percent of people who are artists. There are so many percent of people who are scientists and interested in learning about the world in which we live. There are so many percentage of people who are historians. There are so many percentage of people who are interested in rule and governing. There are so many percentage of people who are criminals. It's just part of society. It is a part of society in as much as, you know, just there are so many percentage of people who are straight. There are so many percentage of people who are gay. There is a wide spectrum of people in all of these things. So since the 80s, we've had increasing numbers of people failed by the political system in the United States. People who, and we've had increasing consequence to that failure. Built into the increasing number of people failed by the system, we've had the increasing consequence of disenfranchising those populations who do become incarcerated. You know, I'm a very social person. I believe in the ability of people to gather together and to resolve problems. Even I have had encounters with the criminal justice system in the United States. That's ridiculous. In any just society, somebody who is trying to resolve problems should not encounter the criminal justice system in a negative way. You know, there are people who will try and take advantage of the criminal justice system, and they're interested in it from that perspective. But those are the criminals. Those are the people who should be encountering the criminal justice system in a negative way. So the point here being that just because I have brown skin, just because my parents were Black, and descendants of American slavery, I have been all my life and will continue to be predisposed to be and to encounter police officers, to live and work in places and environments where policing is more prevalent, and to have negative associations with those police, be those negative associations be on my side or be on the side of the police, viewing me as a person of color as a greater threat than somebody who looks more like them. So I'm less likely, and other people of color are less likely to go to the police to resolve a problem. I'm more likely to look for solutions outside of the criminal justice system of the United States. I am also less likely to be able to seek solutions inside the system, the criminal justice system. Say I have a problem. There are gatekeepers to the criminal justice system. Say my vehicle gets stolen. I have to deal with the police to even get a window into that criminal justice system and attempt to begin using it. So I have to get a police report written. I have to convince somebody within the police department to investigate that crime. And then I have to convince people who may and or may not be empathetic to my situation to allow me to access these resolutions, or if I just don't believe in that system because it has been my interactions with it have been so negative, I can just turn to a conflict resolution that is easily available to me and personally track down the person who stole my vehicle and recover it myself. Now, I'm personally unlikely to do that. I mean, I might track them down. I'm pretty good at, looking through the internet and figuring out who people are and what they did. I've had my identity stolen multiple times, and I've tracked the person who stole my identity down every single time. I know I can and have the ability to track down people, but I'm personally unlikely to resort to a self-defense mechanism. I'm more likely, just because of my personality, to appeal to a higher authority. So that's where the gun violence and racism contributes. We talk about the disillusionment of people in communities of color, in the Black community. We talk about economic anxiety a lot. These aren't the answers. They're contributing factors, perhaps. These aren't the things that cause people to turn to gun violence as a conflict resolution. These are just things that contribute to it. 9 minutes left. I want to wrap up by just talking a little bit about something that, as an activist, I've been working on, that a lot of other people who I've organized with have been working on. And that's funding arts as a solution to some of these problems. I beat on the drum of defunding the police department constantly. The reason I beat on that drum very heavily is because whatever tool you spend the most money on is the tool that you're going to turn to to resolve your problems. You spend a lot of money on a really nice screwdriver. I build things all the time out of wood. I have a really nice screwdriver that it just drives screws into wood really nicely, rarely splits things. I don't have to pre-drill very often. So And when you work with wood, these are all problems that you encounter all the time. You have trouble with the screws, etc. So another solution would be nails. Perfectly valid alternate solution. I spent the money on the nice screwdriver. I continue to spend the money on nice screws. So when I need to join two pieces of wood, my solution that I almost automatically turn to is the screwdriver. I've built a ton of stuff recently that my solution I turned to was staples, because they worked better in that particular case. But neither solution is better in the long run. Neither solution has any particular advantage or disadvantage that can't be worked around. It's just that, I spent more money on the screwdriver. So every problem I have when trying to assemble furniture is, hey, let's throw a screw in that. Let's see if that makes that stop moving. That's the same thing when a society spends money in different sectors. And if you've looked at the budget here in Philadelphia, you realize that most of the spending for the past probably 50 years has been on the Philadelphia Police Department. The problem here is not only is policing not the solution to the myriad of problems that a city faces, especially a relatively populous city in the United States with a low average income and a lot of people in a small space. Every situation like that is going to face problems, but the solution is not always policing. I personally would say the solution is never policing. I would say abolish the police and let's find some other way to resolve these conflicts. But I realize that that's not a universally popular position. So let's spend the money somewhere else. Let's spend the money on other solutions. There are a host of studies, which I can link in the comments later. And these studies all go to talking about how government spending on the arts lowers peer-to-peer violence, gun violence especially, in the geographic area where that government controls. It's a lot of words to say. Spend money on the arts, lower gun violence. Yeah, I'll be talking a lot over the next few months, particularly as the budget deadlines for Philadelphia come out in about 3 weeks, almost 3 weeks, 3 weeks and a day. The mayor of Philadelphia will release his first proposed budget. If you don't know much about the city of Philadelphia, our budget goes something like the mayor releases a proposed budget, city council gets it and goes, let's make this change and that change, and then they talk to the mayor back and forth in back channel. Then they kind of come up with a combined this should work, and then they have budget hearings and the city council hears from the constituents and they say, okay, well, here's what we're proposing, does this work for everyone? And then the constituents provide testimony, but usually by that point the city council's pretty sold on whatever plan they came up with. They feel pretty confident about it. So after those hearings, unless something major comes up, they basically pass whatever budget that they negotiated with the mayor's office, and then the mayor's office signs it into law. In certain cases, the mayor's office will re-enter back channel negotiations with the city council, because unlike the federal government, city council of Philadelphia tends not to pass a budget unless they are absolutely certain that the mayor's office will pass it into law. This is because by law, our city budget must enter law before the end of June. And then the city council goes on its summer break. And so does the mayor's office. So you lose a lot of people to their summer break for up to 2 months. It's quite a sweet deal for them. And I know a lot of, I talk to and about a lot of city council people. I'm sorry, it is a really sweet deal. I take vacations too, but it's a really sweet deal for you guys. I'm probably going to take a couple months off this summer as well, but that's for personal reasons. And if I didn't have those personal reasons, I probably wouldn't. There's too much going on. Anyway, so the budget of the city of Philadelphia is going to be a big deal. It's going to be a big deal because we're getting a bunch of money from the federal government to cover money that we didn't take in taxes. We're getting a bunch of money from the federal government to cover the expenditures that we didn't make last year that we should have made. And all reports are that the mayor's office is going to offer a budget that is very police heavy and heavy on the side of let's provide a direct intervention into these problems, and light on the arts, light on the humanities, light on taking care of people, rather trying to resolve problems by forcing people to have those problems resolved. So we're going to look at all that over the course of the next couple of weeks. And I'm just going to segue out of this this whole hour that I've been talking to you guys, because it's 11 o'clock. I really appreciate you watching. Tune in next week, next Wednesday. We'll talk a little bit more about these kinds of problems from the Black community perspective. If you want any eye into the Black community, you know, I am a member of the Black community. I have friends who are the members of the Black community, and I will bring that perspective to you. And hopefully I'll bring you news and information that you can use to help yourselves as well. You know, we'll talk more about available grants and loans and things for folks living in and around the city of Philadelphia, as well as in general in the country of the United States. It's a little bit beyond my purview to be able to cover all the international aid available, but there are programs like this over the majority of the planet right now. So if you are feeling anxiety, if you're feeling like you have nowhere to turn, if you're feeling like you're gonna fall off of this commercial merry-go-round that we live on, don't worry. People are there to try and keep you on it. You know, so unless you want to live off the grid, if you enjoy the comforts of living, you know, in the commercial society, I highly encourage you to seek out that aid and try and get the help that you need. And so I want to thank you all for watching. Really appreciate your time. We'll talk a little bit more about immigration next week. Sorry I didn't get too much of it. Suffice it to say, immigration is a solution to these problems, not a problem in and of itself. We should allow more immigration because it makes the economy better. But tune in next week to find out more about that, why it works, how it's always worked historically, why people who are anti-immigration are just complete morons. And if you like what you've seen, if you want to make these programs a little bit better, please like and share. Those are 2 free ways that you can help us get our message out further, increase our economic viability. If you have a little bit of extra cash because you got your stimulus payment, feel free to subscribe to us on Patreon, patreon.com/lightbeefproductions. We have rates as little as $1 a month. I'd like to thank our newest Patreon subscriber, and Jess. Really appreciate you tuning in and subscribing for $1 a month. We have continuing Patreon subscribers, but check it out. You know, $1 a month isn't huge, but it's huge to us. It makes us both appreciate our audience and allows us to reach out a little bit beyond the bounds of a 2-person company, and get a little bit more work done and bring you a little bit wider variety of news and information. So thank you once again. Tune in next Wednesday, and until then, really appreciate your attention, and we look forward to having you back next Wednesday for another coffee break chat.